Hello everyone, today is the 20th video of my database management systems question video series. Today I am going to complete the 20th video of the question list of database management systems. Let's go to the question list, and under day 6 you will find the question 20. And before I starting this video, I have to told you, if you didn't watch this video series, from the question 17, we started a question and continued that question until now. If you didn't watch those previous videos, you have to watch them first, otherwise you will not understand what we'll do in this question. Okay, let's continue this question 20. Here's the first one. Find the number of students who participated in the first term science subject. Okay, here we have to use our database we created earlier. You can see we have to find the number of students who participated in the first term science subject. Okay, let me go to the SQL browser. Here we are in our database exam marks DB. We created this database in a previous video, and here's the table. Let me show you the table. Here's the table which records the terms, the examinations, and the terms and the marks the students recorded, and about the student details, and also the subject details. So we have to write a select query to get the answers. Actually, we are finding for the number of students who face to the science subject in first term. So let's go to our query tab, and in this part I'm going to use join queries. You can use join queries and also the sub queries. I'm going to use the join queries for this part of the question. Here's the first table. I'm joining the first table. Select. I need all the details. Here's the asterisk marks. This is the mark we put in our query when we need all the attributes in our result. So select asterisk from. Here's the database name where our data are stored, exam marks DB, and here's the table name. We are looking for the details inside the student exam mark record table, and here's the condition. We have to connect the other table. You can see in the question we need to connect the subject and also the term. In our database, you can see the subject is are recorded in a separate table called subject, and the terms are stored in another separate table called exam term. So in order to search these details, we have to combine these three tables together. That's why we are using joins. In this case, you can use inner join or self join queries. I used inner join query in my previous video, so I'm going to use the self join query. This is also going to be the same as the inner join query. In this query, if you use self join query, you just need to put the keyword join between the two tables you are going to join, and then here's the other table. It's better you mention the database with the table you are going to join. You don't have to use the database every time you are mentioning a database or an attribute or something like that, but it's a good practice if you mention that database. Okay, here's the database and here's the table. We are joining to the main table, student exam mark record. We are joining subject table to that one, and here's the attribute which is equal to the other table. We have to use the keyword on before mentioning that relationship. Actually, in this part, we are defining or we are mentioning the relationship. Like in this case, we have to use, we have to mention the attribute student ID, sorry, subject ID in the subject table, and it equal to the subject ID in subject table. That's the connection to that two tables, because the subject ID of the subject table was foreign to the subject ID in student exam mark record. So here's the connection. Subject table and here's the ID, subject ID. Let's execute this one and see the results. You can see here are all the details of student mark records and the subject in a corresponding order. Okay, and again we have to join another table, which is the term table, the exam term table, because we are searching or we are sorting the data related to the term, the exam term. So here's the other joined table. I put the keyword join, and then here I'm mentioning the database exam marks DB, and here's the new table. We are joining exam term, and here's the connection from exam term table to the main table, which is the student exam mark record, student exam mark record, and here's the attribute which is equal to the other attribute in the other table. Exam term ID is equal to exam term table, and it's the term ID in the exam term table. Okay, here's the term ID. Now we join three tables together in a corresponding order. You can see all the details are here, but we don't need all the details of all the terms and the subjects. We only need the number of the students who face to the science subject in first term. So here I am defining the condition where you have to put the keyword where when you are defining a condition, because we combine all three tables, we can put a condition, or we can define a condition to separate tables, like where here I am mentioning the table name, subject table, and here's the attribute subject name equal to, subject name should be equal to science. Okay, let's execute this one. You can see only the records of the which is related to the science subject is shown in the result, and that's not enough. We have to find only the details of the first term. So here I'm mentioning another condition by using n, and here's the table. Here's the second condition. We are searching for the details in term table, exam term table, dot term name equal to first term. Let me copy the name first term. Okay, let's execute this one. You can see only the details, only the records related to the science subject and the first term are shown in the results, but as the final result we need the count. We need the number of the students, not every details about those students. We need only the count. For that result, there's a keyword called count in MySQL databases. Count. When you're counting a set of records, you have to give it a attribute name. So when the query is executing, the count method will count only the records belongs to that attribute, or in that attribute. So here's the attribute I'm counting. It's better we count the student index number because that's a unique number. So let's put that inside the count method. We are going to count. Let me copy the name. We need student index number. Okay, now we can execute this query. The query is completed. Let's execute this one. You can see the count is 8. Only the count is returned as the answer. I think that's we completed the first part of the question. That's the answer. Answer is number 8. So here's the second one. What is the minimum score obtained by the first term students? Okay, here we have to write another query. Let me clear this one and write a new query. In this part I'm going to use the same joining method. Let's join the tables first. You can see if we are going to find the minimum score obtained by the first term students, that means we have to join only two tables: the table which records the score or the marks of the students, and the table which stores the details of the term. So let's join that two tables, which are the student exam mark record table and the exam term table. So here's the first one. Select. For now I need all the details, so I'm using the mark asterisk. Select asterisk from is the database exam mark db, and then here's the table we are going to join. This is the first table, and then here's the joining method. I'm going to use the self join method, join, and here's the other table. It's stored in exam mark DB as well as the student exam mark record table. Now we are joining the exam term table to the previous table, and here's the connection between these two tables. The attribute exam term ID in the exam student exam mark record table is equal to the term ID in exam term table. Here's the exam term table and dot term ID. Okay, here we combine those two tables, and let's execute this one. You can see all the details are showed in the results belongs to the student exam mark record and the exam term table with the corresponding order. Now we have to define our condition to sort these details. We do not need all the details. We only need the details of the student marks in first term. So here's the condition where in the exam term table dot, here's the attribute term name should be equal to first term. Let me copy that name first term. Okay, here's the query. Let's execute this one, and you can see only the first term results are shown in the only the first term details are shown in the result. Okay, here in the question you can see we are searching for the minimum score obtained by the first term students, and here are all the records of the marks and the students which is stored in the student exam mark record under the first term. So let's find the minimum mark which is recorded by the first term students. For do that, there's another method, or there's another keyword called min to find the minimum value of these records in MySQL, like the count method or the count keyword we used in the previous query. Here's the keyword min, and like the count keyword, we have to give it an attribute to find the minimum value inside that attribute. So we are finding the minimum value inside the mark attribute. So here's the attribute mark. It's better you define the table name, because there are more than one tables inside this query, like this one, like this. The mark is in student exam mark record. You don't have to do this. You can just use the attribute name if there's only one. If the attribute name is unique across all the tables, but I'm defining the table name and the attribute name. And let's execute this one. Our query is complete. You can see only the minimum value is stored only the minimum value is showed in the result, which is 10.5 marks. And we can you can see the attribute name. This is result is also going to be a table. You can see the attribute name. It's a long attribute, mean student exam mark record dot mark. But we can in when we defining the query, or when we executing the query, we can change this attribute name to a suitable one by using as. And here's the attribute name. Here's the new attribute name. We are assigning to this long attribute, which is generated automatically when we executing this query. We can change to our custom attribute name by using the keyword as. And here's the new name. We can name this min mark. You can name it anything like anything you want, min marks. And let's execute this one. You can see the attribute changed to min marks. That means the minimum marks is 10.5. Okay, here we completed our second part of the question. And here's the third one. Find the number of students who participated in the second term mathematics subject. Let's complete this third question. We have to find the number of students who participated in the second term mathematics subject. Okay. Here we have to define the subject name and then the term name. So in order to do that, we have to let me clear this one. We have to join three tables, but for this one I'm not going to join these tables. I'm going to use a subquery to get these answers. So let's write our first query, the main query. Select. For now I need all the details, all from here's the database, exam marks DB, and here's the table. Our data is stored in, our main data is stored in student exam mark record. And here's the condition where and here's the attribute which is stored the which has our desired data stored inside in it. And here let me show you the student exam mark record. We are looking for the subject ID. So let me copy the name subject ID. Here's the subject ID is equal, and here I am defining the next query. When this query, the query inside these two brackets, after when the query inside of these two brackets executed, the result of that executed query will be feed into the main query, which is the query we used to select data from student exam mark record. So here's the select query. Here's the second query, select. We don't need all the details, so I'm not going to use the asterisk marks. I need only the ID, the subject ID. So let me go to the subject table, and then here the attribute name subject ID. I'm going to copy that name, and then okay, here we need only the subject ID from, here's the database name, exam marks db dot, here's the table which stored that data, subject, where this is the condition. We don't need all the detail, all the records inside of this table. We only need the ID of the subject mathematics. Sorry, we have to change this one. This should be changed to subject table from exam mark db subject table, where subject ID equal to the second term. Okay, let me copy the name second not the term, mathematics. We are searching for the subject name, mathematics. Okay, let's execute this query. You can see the warning. There's error in our query. That's because we are searching for mathematics in subject ID. This should be changed to subject name, not the subject ID. Let's execute this one. You can see this is the data in the exam student exam mark record equal to the second term, equal to the mathematics subject. You can see in the subject ID, it is every subject ID in every record is equal to 1, and in the subject table, let me go to subject table, and you can see the subject ID of mathematics is 1. That means these are the these are the details belongs to mathematics. Okay, now there should be another condition. We don't need both first term marks and the second term marks of the subject mathematics. We only need the second term marks, so we have to write a condition to that table too, and I'm writing that second condition using this AND keyword. Here's the second query, but before writing the query, we have to mention the attribute in the main table. We are looking where the data we are sorting. You can see we are sorting the data of the attribute called exam term ID. That means we are going to search details of exam term. So here's the here I am defining the attribute, or I'm mentioning the attribute of the main table, exam term ID. Let me copy that name, exam term ID equal to, here's the query, select, I need only the subject ID, the term ID, where from, we have to mention the database first, database and the table. First is the database exam marks DB, and here's the table exam term, and here's the condition. We need details where the value second term in the term name attribute, where the value is second term in the term name attribute. Okay, term name equal to second term. Let me copy the name second term. Okay, here we completed this query, this part of the query. You can see only the second term marks and the mathematics marks. The marks of mathematics subject in second term are showed in the result. But we don't need all the details, all the attributes in this table. We only need the count. You can see in the question, find the number of students who participated in the second term mathematics subjects. We just need the count of the students, so I'm going to use the keyword count, and here I'm giving an attribute to the keyword count. So when the query execute, this the data in this attribute will be count. So here I am putting the attribute name student index number to the count keyword. That's because the student index number is the attribute which represent which store the details belongs to the students. Every record in this attribute will represent a single student. So let me go to the student mark record table and copy the attribute name student index number, and here's our complete query. Let me use the button auto reformat. You can see our query is reformatted, and now we can execute this one. You can see the count is equal to 8. There are 8 students who face to the mathematics subject in second term test. For an addition, we can change the name. We change the attribute name in the result. You can see the there's the attribute name count student index number. We can change this to like second term maths count, like a name like that name, second term maths count is equal to 8. Okay, that means we completed the third part of the question. Let's move on to the fourth one. Which subject got the lowest mark in the first term? Okay, to do that we have to write another select query. Let's find the lowest mark recorded in the second term, and then find the subject name. So Here I'm going to find the lowest mark, and I'm going to use subqueries in order to do that. So here's the main query: select. For now I need all the details, asterisk from, here's the table name exam mark db, and here's the table, main table, student exam mark record, where here's the first condition, the exam term id. Let's go and copy that one. Exam term id equal to, here's the second query, select not all, we just need the subject id, the term id. Let's go to that table and copy the attribute name term id term id from is the database exam marks db, and here's our table exam term table, where this is the condition, where the subject name, let me copy that attribute name to, equal to, is the value second term. Okay, let's execute this query. You can see only the second term marks are here, but there are records of all the subjects in the second term. Now let's find the minimum value recorded within those details. So in order to do that, we have to change this query. We don't need all the details, we only need the minimum mark. So here's the minimum mark, min. That's the keyword we use to find the minimum mark of a attribute. Here's the attribute name mark. It's better you define the table name which have the attribute we are sorting the minimum value. Here's the table name, student exam mark table, and here's the attribute mark, and here's the minimum value of second term test recorded in the second term. Now we only have to find the subject which has this mark recorded. So for do that, we have to write a search query to the exam student exam mark table, because that's the we only need the ID of the table. So here's I cut the query we wrote earlier. Here I'm going to cut this query, and I will paste this query inside two brackets as a subquery. So let's write our next query, select. For now I am using the asterisk marks, select all from, here's the database exam mark db, here's the table student exam mark record, where is the attribute the data are stored in the mark table. So where the mark equal to, here's the subquery we wrote earlier, which contains the which will find the lowest mark recorded in the second term test, and I'm going to change the all the asterisk marks. Let's put this asterisk marks first and then execute this one, and later I will change that asterisk marks. You can see the lowest the record which has the lowest mark recorded in the second term test are shown in the result, but in this case we don't need all the details. We only need the subject ID of the which has the lowest mark in the second term test. So I need only the subject ID. So I am defining that specific attribute. Let me copy that one, subject ID. I forgot to define the table name. Here's the table name. The subject ID in student exam mark table. Student exam mark record dot, here's the subject ID attribute name, and by executing this query it will only show the subject ID of the lowest mark recorded in the second term test, and that's number 1. And now we have the subject ID of the lowest mark in second term test. Now we have to do is to write a select query to the subject table and find the subject name which belongs to the which have this subject ID. So let me cut this query and write a select query to the subject table. Select all from, that's not all actually, that's the asterisk marks. Select asterisk from, here's the database name, exam marks DB, and here's the table name, subject, where this is the condition, and here's the attribute where subject ID. Let me copy that one. Let me see that one. Subject ID. Okay. Subject ID equal to this query. This is the query we wrote earlier. And that will show all the records which have the lowest ID of the subject recorded in the second term test. And you can see there are two attributes, subject ID and the subject name. We just need the subject name, so I'm changing this asterisk mark to the subject name. Subject name. Okay, here's the subject which records the lowest mark in the second term test. It's the subject mathematics. And here we answer for the fourth part of the question. Let's move on to the fifth one, and it's the last question of the question 20. Find the name of the student who got the lowest mark in all the subjects in first term test. In order to find the name of the student who got the lowest mark in all subjects in first term, we have to search the name of the student. The names of the students are stored in the student table. So first we have to write a select query to that table. That's the main table. In this query, I'm going to use subqueries to do this. Select. For now, I'm using asterisk mark. Select asterisk from. Here's the database exam marks DB, and here's the table name student. Okay, here are the details of the students, and I'm going to find the student by his index number. So I'm writing a condition to find the specific index number of the student who got the lowest mark. So here's the condition where index number in this table, the current table, actually the student table, in, you can use equal or in we use the keyword in if there are more than one results will come from the subquery, but if there's only one result, you can use equal, but in this case I'm going to use in. Select index number in. Let me change this one to equal. Index number equal. Here's the other subquery. The next one, I'm selecting the details from student exam mark records, because there's the table which records our marks, records the students marks. So I'm going to write a select query to that table. Select. I don't need all the details. I need only the index number of the student. So let me go to the student table first. You can see student index number. Let me copy that name. Select student index number from, is the database name exam mark DB, and here's the table name student exam mark record, and the condition where the marks, we are going to find the lowest mark recorded in the first term test. So here's the lowest mark where, and we are finding the lowest mark. So I am mentioning the mark attribute where mark in and here's the second second select query, because I'm using this query to find the lowest mark. So we have to write another select query to the same table, the student exam mark record, to find the minimum mark recorded in first term. So select. We don't need all the details, we only need the minimum mark. For that, there is a keyword called min to find the minimum mark, and here I am finding the minimum value of recorded inside the mark attribute. So is the attribute mark. from, and here's the database and the table exam mark DB, and here's the table student exam mark. Here's the condition where we don't need the minimum marks in both terms, first term and the second term. We only need the first term marks. So here's the condition to that, where we need to find the exam term ID of the first term. So sorry, exam term ID. We need the exam term ID. Exam term ID equal to, is the second query. We are going to write another select query to the term table, because we are finding the data, we are finding the ID of the first term recorded in the exam term table. So here's the select query to the exam term table. Select, we need only the term ID. Let me go to the exam term table and copy the attribute name. Here's the attribute name term ID, and then from here I'm mentioning the database exam mark DB, and here's the table. We need the ID inside exam term table, where, and this is the condition, where term name equal to, it's better you put this attribute name inside two question marks, where, and here's the value first term. Let's execute this query and see whether our query is equal, our query is right or not. Okay, let's execute this one. You can see we find the student name who got the lowest mark in first term, and I need only the name of the student. So we don't need all the details in student table. We only need the first name and the last name. So here I am using two question marks, first name, and here's the separation, and here's the second one, last name attribute equal. You can see Kasun Rajamantri is the kid who got the lowest mark in the first term test. Let me show you the full query. Here I auto format the query. You can see this is the whole query, and here's the kid Kasun Rajamantri is the kid who got the lowest mark in the first term test. Okay, here we completed our question 20, and that's it for this video. Let's see you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching.